Welcome to the Micheletti Podcast. Today, we have two amazing guests. I have Tom Hall over here.
How are you, sir?
There we go. We got Jake Davenport on the mic.
Deal Mastery 101 and 201. Let's roll.
I guess he's plugging himself on my podcast, but that's cool. Ooh. All right. Well, let's get straight into it. Both you guys have a ton of experience in the real estate space, but something else kind of you guys align with here. You guys are both fathers.
Yeah, man. That's a never-ending job.
Talk to me about it. How's fatherhood been going for you guys? Because we were just kind of riffing about it a little bit before this podcast. Catch me up.
Actually, I feel like I just stopped being a parent. Just stopped being a kid to my parents, and at the same time, I was like, oh, I have a daughter who's, she's going off to Europe for a few months to study. So I'm thinking I have an adult child, but you just realize it never ends. There's emotional needs, there's little things that come up that they haven't dealt with, and it's like it's your job to be there. So no matter the time or the place, it's like you just got to step up and give your energy. I was, life is about energy transfers, like to you, to me, one way or another. And so it's like, hey, sometimes all the universe is pulling from you, but then it'll give back when it's your time.
Interesting. Reminds me a little bit of karma. You try to put goodwill out there and you get some goodwill back, kind of thing.
I just think it's about, there's times when everyone's giving you energy, right? And so there's some times when you got to just give all the energy out.
Interesting. How do you feel like that's impacted your ability to lead your company? Have you learned anything through raising kids that has allowed you to lead your company any better? Because I had someone on the podcast recently, and she was a fifth grade teacher before she became a CEO of a now multi-million-dollar business. And she was saying that it's not that much different trying to train her team than what it was when she was teaching fifth graders.
I mean, I think anytime someone looks at you as the leader of something, your kids look at you, hey, you're the leader of life. You've done all this stuff I need to learn how to do, right? And then like your employees, you're the leader of our company. You got to show us the way. So a teacher is doing the same thing. I think it's very similar. But, there's different sets of issues, right? Yeah. They'll come at you with different problems.
Got you. Yeah. So you got one kid in Rome right now.
One kid
doing
in Rome.
Study abroad. And then you got another kid that's going to Spain next year. Catch us up on your oldest son.
Well, that's supposed to be kind of on the DL a little bit.
We can move past it if you want.
No, yeah. Well, okay. He has an opportunity to potentially go play overseas for a little bit, and also get some good life lessons. So I'm proud of him of taking a chance that is put himself into like a tough situation. That he's may or may not be 100% ready for, but you just got to sometimes take the leap.
Yeah,
to grow.
Hey, that's what you do in entrepreneurship a lot of times, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, one thing that resonates with me, and it's not always true, right? But when you want to look at how good a man is, look at his kids, because oftentimes those are a reflection from a moral and ethical and value standpoint
100%.
Of who the father and the mother are.
It's funny, I see Jake's got a beautiful young daughter, and so I imagine that all the problems that she comes to you with, you're probably like, man, what's all this, But what I was going to tell you, man, it just doesn't ever change. Like, there's always a kid will always come up with a new problem.
Yeah, so, very, very true. I think that
each phase of life, right?
And as they grow.
Right. So you got to appreciate those moments of harmony, mm-hmm. where it's like, hey, you and me, we're in balance right now. It's amazing.
Let's push it back. What's going on in fatherhood with you, man? How's everything going with you and the fam?
Family's going good. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and so it's
Kindergarten.
Just started kindergarten. And also, we over here at Micheletti Media love Kyla. She's our honorary intern. She helps us record content all the time. She's awesome.
How about you, Trey? You got a kid?
No.
Any kids? Any kids coming?
Give me. Look, I'm gonna keep that one tight. You'll see when it happens. You'll be one of the top 10 people that I let know.
I guess, but a question: would you want to start early, have your children now, or wait till later?
I was about to take a bite of my burger, but I'll hop back on the mic.
You can take a bite and think about it.
One thing that I've thought about this actually a lot.
Yeah, because it's a big choice as a business owner.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Because on one hand, I want to make sure that I set myself up properly to make sure that I can financially take care of a child, because it's the number one responsibility in your life, right? You're raising a human being, a contributing member to society. But on the other hand, the more and more people that I talk to, people almost never regret having kids early. Like if they have a kid early on, when they get older and their kid is closer in age to them, or the relationship they build, people don't regret having kids early on. Yeah, it makes it harder in life at the early stages, but as you grow with them, I've never talked to anybody that regrets having a kid at the age that they did when they have them young. To a certain extent.
That has to be in context, because I didn't have my daughter until I was 29, right? And many of my peers and friends had a kid. What is early?
Already.
Right? What is early? 19. And it's hard to have regrets about your own perspective.
Yeah.
Because when you have that conversation, even that thought, to have a regret that has anything to do with your kids, early, late, you should never probably take that perspective of having a regret relative to that topic, right? Hopefully not.
I do know some people that have said, "Man, I waited too long, though."
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, when you're 60 and your kids graduate in high school, you're just,
But even with that, right? It's about the perspective, because I say that, like.
But maybe they enjoy so much of their life before, right?
And you forget how much you've enjoyed,
right?
Or you didn't have the pressing experiences of raising kids at 18, 19.
At a high level of stress in your life when you're still trying to figure out things
Still
yourself.
trying to figure it out. For me, I grew up. I have 11 siblings. I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. So there's 11.
Wild,
right? So I just remember. I mean, shout out to my mom, right? She worked her tail off, and shout out to my dad as well. But I just know for sure I went through that as a young man, as a parent, struggling, trying to keep like bills on, lights paid, food, things of that nature, and then growing and trying to manage things. But for me having my daughter at 28, there hasn't been one thing, I'll be honest with you, thankfully, there's never been one thing I've ever lost sleep about solving. My daughter got sick twice, and I was pretty sad about it, right? Mm-hmm. But lights have never been an issue.
Yeah.
And not to say that if you have them young, that'll be an issue, but also I co-parent. Me co-parenting at 28, it's about maturity. It's about doing.
How close are you with the mother?
We're healthy co-parents.
That's good.
Health, but see, you wouldn't.
Because that's a big challenge, though.
You wouldn't have got at me at 19, 20. You wouldn't have. Not have. And I think that even like in that dynamic, right? People, when I see co-parenting taking place, when the respect is gone, you see the challenges of co-parenting affecting the kids. Mm-hmm. With me and my daughter's mom, there's nothing but respect.
Yeah, and that's so important, because the messaging that could come from different angles and just different people. This is a whole other tangent, but then the kids, they're going to go have partners, right, in life. Yep. And now all of a sudden, those partners that they have in life are going to create this whole new family dynamic. And sometimes I think back, and I think that's like one of the weirdest things, because I don't get to choose who my kids are partners with.
Correct.
Right. And so now all of a sudden, this whole other person, this whole other family could, come into each one of my kids' life, and now they're like this family, right? And I'm just like, oh,
That's interesting.
Let me slide in real quick, because there's something about parenting and your kids. Because at one point you raise your kids the best of your ability, you got to let them go. Like your daughter's in Europe right now, right? The thing about how all of us learn and all of us conduct ourselves, we always take, especially if we have a good relationship with our parents, we take their opinions in perspective. Like when your daughter brings a boyfriend home for prom, right? She knows in advance what they tell him. Listen, my dad's probably going to kill you. Right?
Or my dad's going to ask you these kind of questions.
She already knows because of how she was raised. We're smart individuals. But not so much parenting, but I'll show you something that happened with me where I know that's how the brain works. You and I, we connect pretty frequently. You always sprinkle me with a lot of good information.
You as well.
Right on.
Don't be throwing flowers at me. I got to throw them back to you.
All right, I appreciate it. You catch me off guard. But it tends to be a lot about business, right? But I remember we had a live session in a podcast, and Tom came as a guest, and the screen was right here, and there was somebody on the podcast vaping, right, blowing big O's, and I looked at Tom, and Tom did just like this, right? Now, whomever it was, it doesn't make a difference. But what I knew at that point is I probably wouldn't have said anything and set the right expectation of what needs to be conducted on Q&As and live sessions. But I remember I was almost embarrassed, right? Because I saw that Tom had caught it. Not so much father-son, but mentor, older guy. I saw how that wasn't a standard that you would accept.
Do you remember that moment, Tom?
I do remember that. Actually, I remember everything. You'll be
oh, shit!
You'll be surprised. I notice every little thing a person, because that's how you I try not to like make a quick judgment, but I do notice like things about a person, and then I'll give them like, hey, if it continues to be like a certain kind of behavior or a certain type of way they're acting, then I'm not going to judge them about it because I don't really care. That's just not a person I might say, hey, I'm trying to, do business with you or spend time with you, because it's just not fitting my morals and my values. So now if a person is coming and saying they want business advice from me, and if you're going to, you can't take a few minutes to just like have a one-on-one conversation, I'm just going to remember that. And I'm going to treat the question with that level of respect.
That's interesting.
So I remember that standard.
That's funny that see, he noticed what I did.
Yeah.
So you can't be surprised I'm noticing. He's over here noticing my reaction.
No, Jake's the guy where he'll pick up on things that I don't pick up on in social circles, because I'm not looking that closely at people. I'm all up in my own head.
But that's the worst place you should be, is in your own head. I mean, you should be spending your whole time in social circles learning about the people around you. What makes them tick? What's their life stories? Who are they? Who are you surrounding yourself with?
You know what's interesting? It's not. I think when I talk to people, I attach to certain people, and this is a problem with mine. I attach to certain people and I neglect the rest sometimes.
But why do you?
Because I'll look.
You like someone's energy or someone, and then you're like, that. But then you're missing so many things.
100%.
And sometimes you got to dig a little deeper to someone, because they might not have the natural, like a charisma that just comes out immediately in a social circle, but they could be an amazingly charismatic person if you're talking to them one-on-one. They could have the most value that you could ever get, but they just don't know how to share it.
That's like Caitlin. Caitlin's she's conservative or a little
Right.
quiet. But if you talk to her for 20 minutes, it's
Man, she's amazing.
layers
Like,
after layer.
she doesn't want to walk around and like run the room necessarily. But then you sit down and you have a conversation with her. You could tell that she's very intelligent, heart's in the right place. Obviously, that's why you're together with her. But
And I'm better at that one-on-one communication too. Like when I
but
really
in
can
a
talk
big
to somebody,
room, sometimes I actually try to find the person like, hey, that's just sitting over there. Like, hey, what brings you here?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it's just it's actually a very good like life skill, is to not just attract to your other like co-part of energy levels, right? It's just like, hey, what is that person doing over there? Get to know different types of people,
personalities.
Yeah.
Gain further perspective. See, that's where my youth shines, because I'm young. It shines through in a not so positive way, where I still have growth to be done. But
there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, because it's a natural human being to be. You're attracted to certain people, right? You're attracted to certain like things in life. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I think you will learn that over time, that attraction, if you dig a little deeper, you'll find so many different things that you're attracted to.
What do you think is the key to that? Because one thing that you say is you'll take every first like 10, 15 minute meeting, right?
Of course.
So where did that mindset come from? Was that kind of just ingrained in you from childhood, or was there a moment when you realized, well, I shouldn't keep doing this, let me switch it? Where'd that come from?
I mean, I actually had a sales job, and as part of your sales training, you have to learn how to go into any room and just be able to make a connection with someone, even if it's like the last person in the world you want to talk to, right? And so it kind of teaches you to be quiet, to listen, to be more, taking your own like wants and needs out of the conversation. So over time, that was a successful strategy, for me to like make new connections. And so then I was like, wow, I learned this person has something really cool going on. So why would I not like just take that forward and sit down and have meetings with people, and continue to learn.
Wow. Sales teaches you a lot, huh?
I mean, as far as like life and business, I mean, and human relationships, like if you're selling, you're meeting so many people, and you have no choice of who you're sitting down to. If this is a person that controls the account, you got to somehow make a connection with that person.
Yeah.
I think that they describe, especially in business, what's so important is there's like the tactical things, analyzing deals, finding deals, raising capital, right? And then you have soft skills that are universal, and really they can be more valuable than understanding how to analyze a deal, how to work a room. And that's one of the things I'm learning as I continue to grow. Rose is right back to you, because me and Tom were having a conversation with a buddy of mine a few days ago. And one of the things that I said, Tom, man, a lot of when we were talking about just analyzing deals, I said, you were so quiet. And can I use your words?
You go ahead.
He said, Jacob, sometimes you just gotta shut the fuck up. Right? But I felt it in my chest that on one side, when you're navigating a room, if social behaviors are your strength and you're being hyper social and you go into a room where some people aren't like that, right? Being over social or hyper social will actually can discourage people from talking to you.
Yeah.
It could be intimidating.
100%.
So being able to understand your speed when you're navigating, okay, speed up, slow down. Speed up, slow down.
Or stay in front of the mic.
Forgive me. To speed up or slow down or listen. And that's the growth phase that I'm in that has nothing to do with real estate right now.
So how do you remind yourself of that? Because you're someone that is, I mean, Caitlin will call you a yellow. But you're someone that naturally likes to have that spotlight and naturally likes to be in front of the crowd and get people entertained and get people
this guy,
up.
no way.
So I know it's hard to believe if you meet him off the bat, but how do you remind yourself of that? Or if you haven't already, what are some steps that you're going to put in place to get to that point?
Just correction, words are important. I do not like the spotlight. What happened is I went from detention in 5th grade, 6th grade for telling jokes to being in a sales environment, and that playing to my benefit.
Were you the loudest kid in like junior high?
100%.
I was too, man. I was the worst. But then I got real quiet in high school. Like I kind of like just was going, I think going through like a transition phase. But then I got loud again in college, and then now I'm just like now becoming more introspective as I get older.
You've had real ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys.
Yeah, but you met me. It was like, oh, you're so introspective. That wasn't always the case. Like I used to be like, man, probably just the most annoying person ever, because I was just like, oh, we got showtime right here, and that's.
You told me that story about one of your first mentors. She said that she was a millionaire by 30, and you were like, I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna beat you. Like, you don't tell me these.
Can you tell me that story real quick?
I mean, it was just, I was working for her as an administrative assistant. I was like 20 years old or whatever, still just starting out in college, and. She was a very accomplished person, and I looked up to her a little bit, but I also had like a pretty high feelings about myself. And
would you say that those feelings? Sorry to interrupt you. Would you say those feelings were more ego or more confidence?
I mean, part of it is a facade, right? Because I wasn't successful yet, so I just felt like in front of someone that was, I had to show confidence.
Okay.
I felt like if I showed weakness in front of someone else that's successful, they wouldn't look at me as like worthy as like taking the challenge. So I thought the smart thing to do was to be like, I'll beat you, so that she would be like, oh, you're going to beat me? Like, let's get into a little race, When actually I realized the smarter comment would be like, what can we do so I can also be as successful as you, right? But that's something you learn later, like just how to reconfigure your words to get the result that is the most beneficial to you, at the same time not pissing the person off that you're trying to collaborate with.
Did that comment piss her off, or did it give?
Oh, she brought it up later. She's like, you always told me this, and some people like words can last forever, so.
But she respected it too, though.
I mean, I think she thought it was a little brash and arrogant, I mean, it's not like
naturally normally when you have a 20-year-old saying something like that.
Yeah. I mean, but she also was, kind of bragging up to me that she was so wealthy, so young. So
Gotcha.
I was kind of like, all right, well, game on then.
Game on.
Interesting. I like that. Coming back to Jake a little bit.
I did win though.
There we go. Hey, never mind my tone or word choice.
Maybe the arrogance had some truth behind it.
I would say arrogance is good, but you will affect how other people think about you for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Coming back to Jake, let's go back to that comment about you said you don't like the spotlight.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Got you.
I'll give you that for right now. But how are you going to work on bringing yourself back to listen?
Have you seen
more
Jake's burner Instagram account? He's literally just like up in the thing. He's got like glasses on, just like.
Yeah? Is this a fake account?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I will show it to you later.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Unless he got your ass. That's funny.
I want to see this.
That's all deepfake AI. Like,
with him growing in social media, it'll happen one day. I guarantee. Yeah. But please.
Well, again, I don't want to over exhaust the roses, but we're talking. You're asking me a question about me, and I'm going to be fully transparent, let you know what goes on in my mind, right? And so for me, you pick a target, aim at it, and shoot, right? And so when I think about my journey, I analyzing deals, finding deals. That's real estate, right? Growing in my community, I'm enjoying it, but I have growing that I'm trying to do as an individual, right? So I can bring better results to myself and my community. And so within that, when I connect with Tom, like he said, he has high energy and then more moderate energy. And sometimes when I run into Tom and he's on that lower level or that moderate level, it's very, very sharp and very, very focused.
Yeah.
And then so I'll start, because I'll ask, hey Tom, what's going on? And you can say, focus. I'm doing good. Great. How you doing? Focus, right? And that's not the same Tom. But it's not that I get offended. It's like, oh, he's in his zone.
Yeah.
And so I understand the results of being in your zone, right? And so how do I get in my zone? Well, talking all the time doesn't do it. And being in these social environments, you have to do the work. You have to focus on the work. You have to have a vision, connect with the right people. So it's not so much for me about just being less social or talking less. It's the time I have in a day. What am I doing with it? Am I grinding mentally and applying it and doing actual steps? Or am I ha, ha, ha? And for my aggressive goals, I don't have time for the ha, ha, ha. And ha, ha, ha has only got me here.
It's funny, actually, because so Jake and I, this is a story for the audience and Tom. So I jumped on a call with Jake. It was probably about 9:15 p.m. So we were jumping on a pretty late call. Not yesterday. This is a couple weeks back. And we were just talking about like where his time is going because we're working on some things and we weren't getting as much done as we would have liked. So I was like, Jake, let's go back. 8 a.m., what's your calendar look like? From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., what were you doing? We calculated it out. Guess how many phone calls this guy had? 35 phone calls between 8 a.m. and I think we only got to like 2 or 3 p.m. Like, and we're talking there. Well, why do you think that you don't have
tough? That is tough.
But then you really go down and you're like, okay, which one of these phone calls, how many of these phone calls did you actually need to take? Were actually important in driving the business forward?
Maybe 4.
4?
Maybe 4.
Oh, see, I don't do that, man. But I mean, today I had like 14 phone calls I had to make, and 10 of them were very important, you know?
But then that just that time audit in general.
Right, but think about that. 10 phone calls in a day that are like high value it's like you got to be like on. That just drains you. Right?
It's a different type of draining too, because one, you know that you're making progress, but it's mentally taxing. The other one is it's mentally taxing because you know you're not making progress.
Well, I mean, it's not that it wasn't important. I had to talk to my daughter a couple of times, you know. So, I mean, that's not progressing my business net per se, but it is like, you know, part of what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then my dang washing machine broke. So I had to call somebody for that.
Come on.
You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Life will just come at you. Like, you know, sometimes you got nothing going on and the world is just like a calm, cool breeze in the Amalfi Coast, and then you come back and you were in the eye of the storm. But
hey. How do you kind of in doing a phone audit or a priority audit of trying to advance yourself? Now we're talking soft skills, right? How do you look at calls that come in?
Where did those calls originate from? I think is what I usually go back to is like, was that something that I put myself into that I can take myself out of? Or was that something that came at me because it just, you know, happens to be like a natural progression of the business, right? So if there's things where I'm getting calls come inbound that are related to me being like, yeah, I'll do that. Happy to spend my time with that. And then now I'm looking at that time thing and I'm like, why did I ever say yes to that?
Right.
That'd be a good note for you to take.
So I know how you are. You are a giver of life. You are a giver of energy. And so I was saying that earlier. So sometimes when you do that and you put out all these yeses to the world, later on, those people are going to come back and they'll be like, oh man, Jacob, he always will say yes. So, hey, you got 5, 10 minutes for me? You got 5, 10 minutes. And you're now mentoring, you're giving, and you're handing out all this. But then when is that coming back to you? Now, it probably will, but you just don't know when.
But sometimes you can also give that energy out to the wrong people that will just keep sucking, and then that actually keeps you.
So then you have to now look. It's just like, hey, is that really going anywhere? Was me saying yes to that? And then you start learning over time. I'm not. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you, but you know, I'm not interested this time. That's actually okay to say, and that's not going to ruin your reputation. You know, at the same time, it's going to create more value for the relationships that you put together. I mean, you'll see. I say no to you a lot. You'll be like, hey, can we do it? Nope, can't do it. Nope, can't do it. You know, it's like I try to make time, but I also know that me spending time to do, these kind of things is only valuable if I want to be here.
Yeah.
And not if I'm trying to fit it in, if I'm trying to force it, right? Now, you, on the other hand, I'm not saying this is not like, I don't want to spend time with you, but I see a lot of value in where he's trying to create his business on the real estate side. And I think him and I could do business together. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see what he comes up with. So there is some selfishness in my side, because I'm like, hey, if he comes up with a crazy investment strategy we could put together, we're doing business together, I'm making, some more money, he's making money, we could have a joint success together.
Yeah.
So if he calls me and says, hey, what should I do? I'm going to put some of my hard-earned capital at work, right? I'm going to take that call.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, Tom, can you want to, film a quick, content? That's more, I got to do that when I'm like, hey, I'm really fired up to talk about something.
100%. It's prioritization.
Prioritization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, based on what your future ambitions are too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Because for some people, it's like, well, for you want to make sure that because you have a lot of things that are pulling at your time, you want to make sure that every investment that you have now is going to lead to the return that you want in the future. But if it's not something that's higher on your priority list, then why are you going to do it? And for you, what I've seen is family comes first.
100%.
So when family calls, even if there's what I would imagine, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. If there's a deal on the line that can make you some cash versus your kid just went to there's a baseball or a basketball game or a football game that's a championship, you're going to pick this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my kids come first, but my company that I started, that I'm, that is my family too. So it's like,
gotcha.
But if it's like a new thing, I'm not messing with it. But it's like, hey, if my work calls and there's like an emergency, it's like I got to deal with both.
Yeah.
I had a question. You brought something up because you just mentioned, the kids come first, and we're talking about life and stress, and so you don't have children, but you do. So it's like if your kid's going through something, that just elevates everything in you, right? Like you said, your kid's sick, that. If you have the days where your kid's sick, it's so hard to really have 100% of your energy going through this your day to day, right?
100%.
So I think that is the most interesting thing about having a family is as a business owner, that does take a lot of your priority, right? And so it's all of a sudden, if things aren't good at home, the relationship's having a problem, or your kids are having challenges, going through stuff, you are going to be the least efficient person to go through your life. And so you have to think about that as becoming a parent, because that will change your entire trajectory of how your life flow goes.
That's a fair point. That is something I will implement into the mental index when I'm choosing my life
I'm already imagining this dude. He's got this flow chart. It's like a little Venn diagram kid.
It's a little bit like that.
And he's got these pluses and minuses.
You've seen my business.
Yeah, I want to see this. I want to see the kid flow chart.
No, hey, that's one thing that I think about when it comes to kids is, and I don't want to dive too deep because we only got about 20 more minutes. But it's just about how it's going to affect. It's about how it's going to affect me and my business is one right now.
Okay.
Because my business is my baby right now, right? Until you actually have the kid. But this is my kid right now. So how is it going to divert my attention away from that? Because my business is super important to me. And then secondarily, 20 years from now, what is my life going to look like if I have a kid right now versus 10 years from now? Because that's the difference between having an 18-year-old kid versus having, when I'm 40 years old, versus having a 8-year-old kid. So what's the difference in my lifestyle going to look like when I'm 40 years old, and where do I see my business? So that's kind of the mental game plan that I'm trying to run myself through.
40 years old is not very old, though.
That's the other thing, because 40 years old is still super young.
You're thinking that, looking at me, hey, you're older, whatever. But when I was turning 40, I was like, this is what 40 feels like? I mean, it's
a different set of problems at those different age ranges, though, right? 18-year-old when you're 40 versus a 8-year-old when you're 40.
But I honestly don't think it would be much of a difference.
Interesting.
I think the biggest thing would be how strong your relationship is with your partner that you're having kids with, and have you guys experienced everything you guys want to experience as a couple before you have a child together. Because once you have a child together, you are no longer, you two here, you guys are running the business of running the kid. And so it just takes so much of the, I would say, the love relationship away during that time, especially when the kids are young. You just cannot have the same relationship, because like, you know, you get together and you go on a date and you're just like, oh my God, can you imagine, you know, it's crazy how much milk she ate today, or man, she's, you know, really, you know, just like, she's been so fussy. Like, you're not like, damn, you're not like,
funny.
Girl, you look beautiful tonight. Like, you're just not thinking about it that way during that time period. So,
and that's something I really got to think about, because it's already hard for me to stay present in those areas.
You're not telling Caitlin that she's beautiful?
No, of course I tell her that at least 5 times a day.
5 times a day.
I'm
he's on the mic now. He's like 5 times a day. Caitlin, can we get an audit on this? Are you told you're beautiful 5 times a day?
He's on you right now.
She may not say 5, but she'll say at least 3. She'll say at least 3. I know it's 5. I know it's 5.
I'm already backing him down to 3. I bet you I can get it down to 1 real quick.
No way.
I told her once a month.
No, I think that for me, it's already difficult staying present all the time when we've got so much going on in the business, where you add a kid to the mix, and now it's like, oh wow, that time balance. But let me move into some different topics, because we only have a little bit more time, and I got 2 badass guests that have a lot more life perspective than I do and a lot more life experience, and I have a couple kind of quotes that I wrote down for myself, some mental framework things, and I want to hear your guys' opinions on it, since you guys have so much more experience. Tell me if you agree, if you disagree, and why.
Okay.
Something I just wrote yesterday is I was thinking back to high school and how much more effort I wish I would have put into sports. And this is a quote I wrote down. I need to make my future self proud by making the hard decisions now, putting in the extra hours, executing faster, staying more patient, practicing discipline, and facing adversity and not shying away.
I mean, I'll at first applaud you, because you're 21, 22? 22. I don't think at 22 I ever wrote a note to my future self. I was just literally trying to like get through the days, and I didn't know. You have so much more clarity, I think, about what you want your future to look like. I didn't quite know at the time. I was 22, and I don't know if it would help me or not to do that. I think, because it's kind of like a gray area. Like, are you only trying to prove to your future self, to the person you are today? Because that doesn't if you think about it, doesn't quite make sense. Like,
so the reason behind the note, to give some more context, is when I was looking back at high school, right? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, damn, if I could go back, I wouldn't tell myself to try harder in school. I would tell myself, don't skip out on weight room classes because you want to go play video games. Go and put in and go do those weights, because looking back, I don't remember a damn thing about video games. What I do remember is sitting on the sideline during football and not being out on the field.
But that's why you're so hungry today.
Those things.
That's why you're so hungry today. Mm-hmm. See, if you would have already had the success on the football field, maybe you're not as hungry today. Like, it might change your mentality. So I don't like that. I don't like things that say, if I only went back and did this, then, because you should be proud of who you are today. And I think a lot of that hunger and fire in you is because you did spend the time on the video games, right? Because then you look back and said, damn, I was real lazy.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's part of the fuel that is driving you right now.
Yeah, I can understand.
So you don't even have to write yourself that note. You are literally going to be the embodiment of someone that puts their head down and works, because you're so angry at yourself for not doing it before. So that life lesson is what creates all the inspiration you'll ever need. And that was the same for me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I was lazy. Mm-hmm. I should have worked harder. I didn't get into a good school, even though I was smart enough to be in all the honors classes and everything, but I was kind of like just skated through high school. Then once I started working, I was like, man, if I only would have started working harder in high school, I could have got into a better college, I could have graduated, I could have been more successful. And that was all the motivation I ever needed, was like, I'm going to work my ass off.
Agreed. Agreed.
What are your thoughts, Jake?
No, it makes me think about the saying that says it's a lesson and a blessing. Mm-hmm. And so many things, you're right. Like, the why you do things today is directly correlated things of the past.
Yeah.
And so if you have the story of an absent father, if you have the story of being homeless, you have the story of whatever was going on in your childhood, your childhood is such a projection of the decisions you make as an adult. Mm-hmm. I was making sure that I waited to have a child, and also that my child would never want. Why do I associate that? Why do I make sure that I wash my daughter's clothes and take her shopping and do all these things, do what needs to be done, because I know what I experienced. And so, and agreed. The note to that self is, everybody can do what they want, but really the lesson is here.
It's in your heart.
It's here. And
don't you feel it's burned into your soul? Like the failure you feel that you wasted your time?
Yeah.
Right.
100%. The thing that I want to avoid is looking back when I'm 30 years old and looking back and being like, why didn't I do that, this, and that when I was 22?
What?
Because I'm still so young now that when I look back and I feel disappointed by the lack of work that I put in when I was 14 years old, I'm like, but I'm still only 22 years old.
But I would
still
say
have the
the
opportunity
fact that
to do
you
that.
wrote yourself that note is all that you need to do. You're just reminding yourself of what you don't want to become.
Yeah. I think that it can be important to do that sometimes. Like that, ever since I wrote that. So last night I played Monday basketball, right? And last night, like even just thinking
Did you
about
go
that,
off? Did you go off? Get some
I
buckets?
did actually.
Yeah.
I did actually.
Little post up fade.
I have a no. Not my game. Post up fades. I can't. I'm not great.
Well, you're kind of a big guy though. That's why. Oh, you're not good at balance.
I'm not great at balance. I can get inside and I have a good mid range.
Oh, got a good mid range.
Standing mid range though. I'm not
mid range.
I'm not great at the.
I'm body.
So
what's the average age of the people you're playing against with a standing mid range being your top?
So it's the footwork. It's the jab. It's
the triple, you got that
straight into the shot. Yeah,
got the triple threat.
Exactly. So. Regardless, even going back into basketball yesterday, I was just thinking to myself, all right, tomorrow when I wake up and I realize that I just put 2 hours into basketball last night and I didn't put all my effort into it, how am I going to feel tomorrow morning? I'm going to feel like that was a waste of time. I'm not even sore right now. What was the point in going and spending that time? And so when I wake up this morning and I'm thinking to myself, all right.
You really want my advice, Trey?
Let's hear it. That's what I'm looking for, always.
Be present.
Be present. You're thinking about the future way too much.
Interesting.
You're thinking about what will become versus what you're doing. And I think you will be much happier if you just sit down and say, wow, I'm alive, I'm playing basketball. I have my own business. I'm hanging out with people I like right now. Being right here in this moment is everything that you need. And if you stay with that philosophy and you also stay with that hunger that's inside you, you're going to be so happy when you're 30 years old. Because you're going to accomplish what you need to accomplish, whatever it is, right? But you're also going to be very happy and comfortable with those accomplishments because you didn't always worry, was it enough? Did I prove to myself? Because if you do that, you're always chasing something. And you can never catch it, ever.
Never.
You will never catch it.
The past or the present.
The past or the present.
Yeah.
You can't catch it.
I like it. That's great advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one other thing. God bless us all. What if you don't make it at 30? So you're making these projections and living there.
Yeah.
And what you could have done is enjoy this.
Enjoy this.
This is guaranteed. We are here.
This is it. Yeah. The only thing guaranteed.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
This is it right
And
here.
I think that's the interesting thing where it's almost like it's like thinking about the future sometimes.
So smart, bro.
When I think about how hard I want to work now to get there, it actually sometimes makes it more enjoyable for me in the right now because I'm very naturally like a lazy person.
Lazy.
I haven't touched video games in 2.5 years since I started my business. Before that point, I played video games all the time because I wasn't allowed to play video games Monday through Friday during school. And then after that, I would play video games all the time. Like I'd be on video games 12, 14 hours a day on the weekend. And I even got caught in that trap when I got my first 9-to-5 job where it was like 9 to 5 working kind of on social media for half the time and then off. And then, all right, let me go cook dinner for Caitlin. I'm going to go play video games from 8 p.m. to midnight and then wake up the next day and do the same thing. Like I'm naturally actually not that aggressive of a person. And then after I got out, by thinking about those future things and doing the hard work now and forcing myself to get uncomfortable, I've actually realized how much more enjoyable the journey is because I'm putting the effort forth and I don't look back and I actually have memories that I've made through looking to the future. So I'm 100% with you on it, and I've actually been trying to practice presence a lot more. It's that combination that I'm trying to find because I do also catch myself where I'm too much in the future, and that causes current day stress because I'm like, I need to be there, but I'm not there.
But there's nothing wrong with being excited about the future and being driven. I think what we're trying to say is there has to be a balance between it where it can't only be that. And so the way sometimes you can be is only, I'm not sore enough. I didn't accomplish enough today. I didn't do this. And then you actually miss everything you did accomplish. And you're never even going to notice. Like, hey, well, take a step back. You just told me so many accomplishments you already had. You used to only do this. Now you're doing this. And you think it's because, you said, hey, I'm going to start being driven, but also it's a part of your life experience, right? You're growing up, you're realizing that you want to provide, you want to become something, and that's a whole natural thing of growing up.
So I think a side note that I would have added to that is, regardless, be proud of who you are now.
Yeah, you should always be proud of who you are. I mean, I think everyone should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
life is a hard experience. I've known people that have given up on life by taking their life or through one way or another, whether it's direct or indirect through drugs and alcohol and some of those activities. And I'm not in that position. So I try to bring that perspective all the time. Actually, Caitlin and I are going on a trip, on a kind of like mission type trip, where we're going to Paraguay at the end of November.
Amazing.
And we're going to be actually filming the entire thing for one of our community members that runs a nonprofit, and they're going to be going there. They're going to be giving food, backpacks, and helping out the community.
I love that.
And then we're also going to be going to a rural tribe that doesn't have like outside help, and we're going to be the first people to see them in a very, very long time.
That's
We're going
amazing.
to document that process as well. And I'm excited for that because I think that alone is going to help me understand how much more grateful I need to be in the current day, because there's people out there that have so much less and don't have the opportunities that I have. And I need to be thankful that I'm even able to be under this roof, to even have these things that I have and things of that nature. So I'm really excited for that trip.
The other day, my friend was telling me a story about his mom who, his father has Parkinson's disease, and his mom ended up having like a knee surgery. And so she's like laying in bed. She's thinking about recovering from her knee surgery. She's in her 70s, whatever it is. And her thought is, as soon as she gets better from her knee, she now has to take care of her husband with Parkinson's disease. So she's, this is very sad, but she's like laying in bed and just saying, man, I think I just would rather I'm done. I'm done with life. There's nothing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, jeez.
And so if you're in that moment, there is no future. There is no I got to do more. But it's everything that you enjoyed up to that moment is all that's important. Mm-hmm. And that's all you got. Mm-hmm. That's what always puts it in perspective to me when I hear things like that, because that is the reality. So I love that you're doing that. And it's like, that is something that that memory will never be taken away from you.
Mm-hmm. Caitlin has been saying since I told her about it that she thinks this is going to be like one of those pillar points in our life where things shift.
But even if it's not, just be there.
Yeah.
Present.
What was, I mean, for you, how old are you, Jake? 35?
34.
34. Mm-hmm. So up to this point, what has been the greatest like moment that you ever had?
Of happiness or eye-opening?
Just eye-opening.
I was actually going to bring it up because me and Trey was talking about, I was hesitant to bring it up. We were talking about when I got arrested many years ago, right? Went through the judicial system. That was very difficult. And one of the things that I learned is when I was stressed out, facing 18 years, going through the system, right?
I can't even imagine that level of stress.
Right, that's what I thought.
And how were you present at that moment?
Oh,
I can't even imagine, because now Trey, now he's now here facing a reality of anxiety. Mm-hmm. 18 years of a future of nothing. Now
I'll tell you, I while I was going through trial and whatnot, right? There were guys I was 20. There were guys my age. I remember this guy in particular. I had never met him, but I saw him on the news before I got arrested. So he had been fighting his case for 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And then I finally meet this guy in person, going back to forth in court, named Fame. And he was convicted of shooting somebody on Halloween in the chest and killing him, unfortunately, right? And what happened was I watched the judge sentence him to 165 years. Because when you go to court, you just go one after another, right? Mm-hmm. So you get to see this. And when I saw this guy that was my age, I mean, so many things in common. I would imagine, I don't know him, but imagine he has friends. I have friends, but he 165 years, and the reality is he doesn't have enough time in him to ever recover from something like that. So then me and Trey the other day were talking about which sometimes in those circumstances you'll see people plea insanity, and I was saying, Trey, would you plea insanity and then get a 5-year insane asylum commitment, or would you take the life sentence? Trey said, man, I'll take the life sentence. I'm not going to that insane asylum.
Well, no. I said that I'd rather take a life in prison than life in an insane asylum.
No.
No.
I'm saying, but what I say this to say, not to get too distracted.
No, but I'm not. This is actually like the most important thing we talked about today.
Oh, thank you. Well, so you see people try to plead guilty, try to plead insane to try to get like 5 years of insane asylum, and then they can evade that life sentence, right? So I was crazy when I did. I'm crazy now, and all these things. I get on psych meds. I see a psych, and I saw this one guy get that.
Yeah,
he didn't get the life sentence. Went to insane asylum, and he's out now.
Were you in jail or out on bail at this time?
I was in jail.
In jail.
It was like going back and forth to court with these guys. So it was less about me, and I'm looking at everybody that I'm going home at some point. These guys really understand that they're not going home.
Yeah.
And then, when I made it to the prison yard, there was this guy named Red out of L.A., older guy. He's played Pinochle, this card game. And I remember he's playing Pinochle, telling this guy, he said, man, I don't care. Man, I got 4 life sentences. This is my home. And he's still playing cards like this. And I was like, oh, he's joking. No, he's serious. So J. Cole says, essentially, there's always somebody out there that has more than you, a better car, a bit more money, more this, more that. But then there's those that have less
time,
more time. And so that's what made me realize is that I have to do me and believe it in what I'm doing and try the best I can do and be very, very careful about the thief of happiness, which is comparison, and how you use comparison. I compare myself to you and Trey, but I'm very careful about how I use it.
Yeah.
Am I as focused? Am I committed? Am I putting in the hours? When I see Trey here for 7 hours, you here at 7:30 in the morning, but not am I, man, I need to have more money than both of them. Like, I don't care about that metric. I just want to make sure that I'm working hard as you, or hopefully I can work harder than both of you.
I mean, do you feel that experience left you with an undeniable mark to
Scar,
one, but to heal that scar?
100%. Yes. The scar it left was the reality, and it required accountability. 100% accountability, and not on a surface level. And goes back to the time component, because I know people like the guy Fame. I've never seen him again. I've been home for 10 years. He will never come home. So it's not about what you got, but what you do with what you have. And so while I'm here, how many people can I work with and influence and empower? And how far can I take my skill sets?
So then maybe those calls aren't a waste of time.
No.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe those calls, one call to one person that's going to go this way is going to go that way now.
Mm-hmm. Matter of prioritizing it now.
Yeah.
Or maybe I call back.
Maybe you call back.
Yeah.
Or set up the time it's like, hey, we're going to do a group call.
Yeah.
Let's get on Zoom. I got 6 guys, so.
Or do something as simple as doing a text exchange as well.
Doing a text exchange.
Being like, hey, don't have the time right now. Wanted to make sure
I would just tell you, never
you.
stop mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you have so much to give to the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not always like an or. Sometimes it's an and. Like you don't have to take the call. You can do this. You can be focused and get back to them just through a different method. And then it forces you to get more creative, because it's not like I don't need to just answer and pick up the phone even though I'm trying to stay present in my activities now. Instead, let me just say, can I call you back later?
I'll schedule a time to call you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will call you at 2:00 on Thursday.
Yeah. I learned that. I've been working on that.
All right.
Because then I know I'm going to be there with you versus like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And then I'm not even focused on it.
Uh-huh.
And people can tell that too. It'll increase the quality of the conversations.
Yeah.
And their perception of you, and it'll actually make them respect your time so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've learned from Tom as well. And I'll go into that story at a different time. But I want to go over one more quote here, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it just to kind of end us off. This one's all about something that I'm implementing more now, and I think if I would have implemented before, I would be even further ahead. Not that it matters. I'm happy with where I am now.
I'm happy, right? Yeah. You know, he started this podcast not being happy, but now he's so happy with where he is.
I'm unbelievably grateful for where I am.
I'm just messing with you, dude.
But
It's
this is a good one.
Oh, man.
When you hesitate, you procrastinate. As soon as the idea comes to your head, execute. Procrastination is the death of progress.
When you hesitate, you procrastinate. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends though, because what if it's an important decision? So I guess if you said, "Hey, I laid down, I'm going to do this," then go do it. Yeah, I think you should do it. I mean, I don't think you shouldn't be like, "Hey, I'm going to go run a triathlon or whatever, but I'm going to do it next year," right? It's just go do it, or else don't write it down.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of how I feel like. But you should also take your time to make a decision, so you're not just saying, "I'm going to go do something." You have no real chance of fulfilling, or really you want to do it. You're only doing it to because you think you're supposed to. So I think if that answers your question.
It does.
I want to ask you both one question though. Well, am I supposed to answer that?
You are.
What was the question again?
Hesitation is the problem. It slows down progress, because if you, instead of procrastinating, just go do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more actionable, and that's what led me to think about something else. Actionable. Because trying to weigh out, prioritize what should be thought about more, I am going to try to collect all the information and make the decision quickly as possible.
I think making quick decisions is very important.
Your washing machine went out.
Yeah.
How long until we strike? Do we try to get somebody to fix it? Do you call your cousin? Do you?
Yeah, it's like I got to go get it fixed because I got 2 boys playing sports, and so the garage is getting piled up with sweaty clothes, and so I'm like, it's either fix it or buy a new one. But I'm tired of buying new appliances, so I want to get it fixed.
It gets all.
The thing that this hit with me on when it comes to like a business application or even a life application was early on when I was learning about business and I was consuming all this content, right? And I started to put some pieces in place, and I was like, let me put this on hold. Let me focus on this other thing. And then what I realized is 3 months later, I'm very slowly and almost just completely stalling progress on the thing, where I look back on it and I was like, if I was just to take the extra couple hours right here, knock it out, all the results and all the data I could have collected would then allow me to get even further ahead here. So that's why I'm trying to remind myself
you're
more.
Applying that quote to a specific circumstance where it does make sense. But if we spent another 15, 20 minutes, I bet you we could both find one where we actually have been better if we waited to make our decision.
Yeah.
And to act, because I actually just thought of one right now. I actually had an investment I made that I had a second thought, but I was like, you know what? I decided to do it. I'm going to be actionable. And so I just did it instead of taking a couple more weeks to do a little bit more due diligence on something I want to check out. That investment did not turn out as I wanted it to, for the exact reason of the time I should have just took.
Yeah.
So that can also backfire. So I think, but I also have definitely at times where I'm like, I should have just done it.
It depends on the context of the situation.
Yeah.
And how much information that you have currently accessible.
Right.
Because if you don't have the information, but then it comes down to the ignorance play, where it's like you don't know what you don't know. So you may think that you have all the information that you need in order to make a smart investment, in order to allocate your time to this marketing strategy that you think is going to turn out well or not turn out well. But you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. So how do you balance out that ignorance level? Is it through mentorship? Is it through further research? And then how do you balance that out by not spending too much time on things that don't matter?
There is no
none
answer. It's just it's all of it.
Yep.
And it's also making those mistakes, right? It's also like, oh man, I should have been actionable there. I should have been, more hesitant and done more research there. And then later on, you can kind of maybe pick those situations where you're like, you know what, I should be on that quick, versus that one doesn't seem right. I should take my time.
You know what? I'm going to ask you guys one last question before we pop off on this one.
I thought the last one was the last question.
This is going to be the very, very last
the
one.
bonus question.
I promise.
The bonus round.
And then we'll be done. Yeah. Bonus
round. Can I have bonus round for 10,000?
What? How about we up it to $1 million? This is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire right now.
All right.
So.
Do I actually have to know something?
No, you don't have to know something.
Because right now I'm just
everybody gets $1 million.
All right. Everyone gets $1 million. I love it.
Would you, and this is kind of a cheesy question, but I still want to hear your opinion. Do you think that making mistakes is as important as winning, as succeeding?
This is a personal question. I mean, I just find a lot of value in mistakes, the lessons and the blessings. And then you define what is a win. For some people, it's monetary. Some people, it's something physical. Just for me personally, I mean, I like all those things, but it's just something about that journey and something about people and the mistake or the experience. That's where all my value is.
You love the work?
I love the work. I mean, it's not a loss for me because that's what for me, I always say bosses take losses. It's so important to have that feeling and that experience.
Jake's got all the same.
Right?
I know, dude. And my
Blessing
favorite
with the
one
blessing, the
is
boss
money
knowledge.
is funny and change is strange.
Well,
I like that
Let me
one.
say this.
Money is funny, though.
What was prison a loss?
No, I think it gave you the experience that you needed to be successful in your career and the things that you do.
But at the time, it felt like a loss. Right.
Yeah. Was it a loss? Did it allow me?
But I don't think he ever would call it a win.
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
Things aren't always black and white. There's a gray area of things where you can't have had this thing without that thing. But
Yeah.
if you could really go back, I would love to go through it again. It's like sometimes I know people that have lost
That's what I'm saying.
a friend or a parent or something like
guarantee
that.
he would probably not want to go spend that time like that
Yeah.
again, unless he would say, that was the only way I could become this.
See, that's the only way I could become this today.
Well, then of course you would go through it.
Do you really believe that? Do you believe there's no other circumstance in which you could
We're
put
not talking
yourself
about
in?
anomalies or these various. I'm saying based off what I know.
Gotcha.
Right. When I got arrested in 2011, every person at 7 that was my real good friend, dead or in jail.
Damn.
That's tough.
Then
Dead or in jail.
Then you take those set of circumstances and you say, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to you.
Shake the dice. Dead or in jail. So, and it's not so much, I don't want to make it so even that far right or left, whatever that shall be, but the humility, the grace, the perspective that I received from very desolate and dark time allowed me to be grateful with a little, but to chase after a large piece of personal pie.
Yeah.
And would I be able to have a true testimony to be able to share with a lot of people that are going through? Because you got to go through it to get to it, And so,
No, but that's
another one.
I mean, you can't fake it.
Can't fake it.
You can't fake it. You can't say like, "Hey, I've been here and I got here." There's proof,
Yeah.
And I'll answer your question,
Please.
But I think he pretty much already said everything that I feel, which is I do appreciate winning only if I've put in the work and I feel like I deserved it. Like, so it's like, man, if I worked my ass off and I was present in the journey and then something amazing happens out of it, I do actually love that moment of sitting back and said, wow, I did that. Let's go.
Yes, for sure.
It's really interesting because I'll share something that's personal to me and my business. That kind of wraps that thing up for me is
I do got to go.
and we'll bounce right
Okay.
after this. Every time that I've made more money in my business, every time that the check hits the bank account, I never actually feel it. The times when I really feel it is when I feel like we're about to fail and we come through and we barely make it through the other side. But I'm not even really happy about that moment of a win. I'm happy that we accomplished something that we didn't think that we could accomplish.
The moment you accomplished it, you're happy.
But
the
then after
result
that,
of we talked about this. The result of it was the money or, getting your, out of your financial situation. But the moment you figured it out is you're like, yes.
After that, it feels like it's
already been done.
It's like, all right, now on to the next struggle.
So true.
I think that's such a common feeling.
Yeah.
So true.
I think a lot of people
true.
feel it, but
So true.
conceptualizing it and embracing it, that's the next level.
Yeah, you did conceptualize it that I never thought about it. It actually is the moment of I did it.
Yep.
And you already know whatever happens after that is going to be whatever it is. But that moment is when you're like, excited because you realize that you succeeded because you did all the work.
100%. So
Agreed.
chase the journey. Don't chase just the end result, and be okay with taking those losses. Be okay with taking those failures because getting past those things, that's what you're going to remember.
100%.
You got to feel them.
Good stuff.
You can feel them. You can feel when it happened.
It's kind of like, hey, you're stuck somewhere, right? And you find a way out.
100%.
And it's that then when you first see the daylight, it's just like, I got another shot at this.
Do you remember locking up your very first deal?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was different though because the success wasn't even that we sold it, whatever. I wasn't even that excited then. It was when we first bought it. I just couldn't believe.
As you speak, normally you're eye to eye. When I ask you that question, you're looking.
I'm just remembering the moment as I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I just did something actually that no one I knew has ever done.
Yep.
But now you're passing and you're on to bigger, better things. And now it's like,
Yeah,
not
but
bigger,
in that-
better things, but bigger things.
But in that moment, though, was probably one of the happiest
Yep.
career moments of my life.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, for
There
sure.
you go. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys very much for joining another episode of the Micheletti Podcast. Thank you both, Tom
Thank you,
Hall,
Trey.
Jake Davenport, for jumping on today.
you.
I hope you guys, Deal Mastery 101 and 201, gained a ton of value, and we will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, Trey.
Peace.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a great day, all right?
You already found a washing machine?
Oh, man, I gotta go meet this freaking dude at my house right now.
I got somebody at Lowe's if
You do?
if it doesn't work out.
This guy's, he's done a lot of